Welcome to the ICT Educator webinar series. I'm Steve Wright. I'm the statewide director for the ICT team of the Workforce and Economic Development Department of the California Community College System. And these webinars are brought to you by our entire sector team. They're produced by Nicole Sherman. Our guest speakers all volunteer their time for the sake of the student success in our system. Right now on our website, we have over 55 recorded webinars for California Community College and other faculty that features these carefully selected experts and successful how-to techniques. Each webinar is video recorded, edited, chapterized, transcripted, along with the PowerPoint presentations. And currently we have over 5,000 views of these webinars. So we know from surveys that our faculty make a lot of use of them as a resource for class, labor market information, etc. And today's webinar should be posted in less than a week. In the next 3 weeks, we're going to wrap up our spring series here. We're going to first hear from credit for prior learning and what that whole chancellor's office effort is and how you can implement that in your college. And ICT, a lot of relevant opportunities here when you look at certifications and how you can give a student credit for prior learning. So let's find out about that then. Then we're going to be looking at a unique case at Skyline and SEMI and others to put together an AI program at the kind of the entry level, and it's really wonderful case study. And finally, I just heard about some of the wonderful work that Facebook has been doing. They're working with a lot of colleges in the Bay region right now, but they have a series of certificates, and they opened up some new certifications for the entry level, which is going to be fun. We'll tackle that on May 7th, our last webinar this year. Today is going to be really interesting. Richard Grotegut has been the takeover host of our NETLAB user group. He was the original founder, stepped away for a while, came back, and along with his relationship with WSTC, he provides a lot of helpful guidance. And today he's bringing in some terrific industry contributors as part of this, I guess it's this quarter's NETLAB user group. Is that correct, Richard?
That's right. This is our quarterly meeting.
Go ahead, take it away.
All right, thanks, Nicole. If you could just go ahead to the next slide. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy to see you all, and happy to still be involved with the NETLAB users group, and I plan to do more with it as we go forward. So just to remind you, NETLAB is a resource that's used up and down the state, and it is designed for allowing flexibility for instructors and for their students to be able to have access to hands-on labs. I've been a user of NETLAB as a faculty member for many years from the very beginning. Frankly, it saved my program at Ohlone College during the dot-com bust time when we were scrambling to get students to be able to come to our courses. NETLAB allowed us to take the commute out of the loop and make it easier for students to participate, and we were able to save our program. And next slide, please. The NETLAB user group, we have members up and down the state, and you can see on the map there are NETLAB users in so many of the colleges. More than half of the 115 colleges are using NETLAB. And then for me, next slide. Here in the Bay Area, our NETLAB system has been sort of the jewel in the crown for our region in terms of support for faculty, ICT faculty. And we started back, this is now our 6th year we've completed running our shared NETLAB system. And in that first year, we had about 20,000 hours of lab that were accumulated. And then every year after that, it was growing in the terms of the numbers of hours of lab in the year that have been done by students. And we kind of leveled off in the last couple of years, 2018, 19, 19, 20. And then this past pandemic year, where in March, we had to move everybody online, including all of our high schools, we were able to do that and support many of our high school programs with our NETLAB so that they could use their Autodesk programs, AutoCAD, and Adobe Creative Suite. We ran that on our NETLAB as well. And you can see we have over 130,000 hours of lab accumulated by students. So NETLAB's been an important tool for our faculty in the Bay Area and up and down the state, and for myself as well. It would not run without VMware. VMware is the backbone of our NETLAB system, and so happy to have Jackie Barker here from VMware IT Academy, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the resources that are available through NetLab and through the VMware IT Academy. So Jackie, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can share your screen. And
great. Well, I just have to say good morning and or good afternoon and happy Friday. I think it's good morning where you all are located. I have to warn you though, this morning I started off my Friday right. I put on some music that was for me very motivating, and then I was dancing like a crazy fool all around my kitchen. I think I scared my dog, I scared my family. I will try not to scare you all today as I present and share a little bit more about VMware. I also have to share, I'm very excited to be here because as I look at the pictures, I think I've met some of you before, probably at a Cisco event, and now I wear a different shirt. I wear the VMware shirt, but it almost feels like coming home when I get to see people that I used to work with, or went to the San Jose campus at Cisco and maybe had a drink or a dance with some of you who are on this call. So it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm really excited about seeing you all and being a part of the story today. Today, I'm going to just take probably 5 to 10 minutes, so not a whole lot of time, because I think there's already some awareness about VMware IT Academy. I do want to ask, on the bottom of your participant list, or on your participants, if you click that on Zoom, there's this space where you can raise your hand. If you're currently a VMware IT Academy or you are a part of our software licensing program, could you just raise your hand so I can see if there's any? Curtis, thank you. Thanks for being a part of the community. Trevor, I feel like I have to ask you to put on your camera, and I won't, but your name and a face is coming up in my brain. I'm not quite sure. So it looks like a lot of you are familiar, and some of you are not familiar with IT Academy from VMware. So I'll go into a little bit of details. On this first slide, you see my email address. It's very formal, Jacqueline. Just because Steve spoke French, I figured I'd use French today. Jacqueline B at VMware.com. So if you have questions, concerns, you have ideas, or you have students that you think should be highlighted, please do let me know. I'll be happy to meet with you, talk to you overall. So let's see if I can forward my slide. So when you think about VMware academic programs, you should think about it in a couple different ways and what we're trying to do. First and foremost, we want to understand, and at the heart of everything is really about jobs. So everything we create is to ensure that those skills that are provided are aligned to a job. No surprise for a lot of you, you do the same thing in your classrooms. We also want to reward and recognize people who are participating and attain those skills. So most of the courses I talk to you today will be about they'll be badge aligned or certification aligned. Everybody likes to see it when it comes up on LinkedIn. I myself was very excited when I could post that I received a badge. Most of our content is indeed that way. We also want to make sure we provide knowledge on the larger landscape of technology. I don't know about you, but some days I need to put on that music in the morning to get me started, because technology is changing so rapidly. One day it's digital workspace, the next day it's digital any place. One day VMware is a virtualization company. Now we're focused on kind of 5 key priorities. So things are changing, but we do want to provide that knowledge of a broad scope from a technology perspective. And then last thing we want to do, and I recognize we do that through all of you, is really enable experiences. Of all the states and of all the countries that I've been engaged with, California to me is amazing, because you take the VMware software and you create things that have never existed. And I think it's a testament to the work that you do with NetLab. You've been able to create cyber competitions. You've been able to create new ways of reaching students, whether it's a student in the middle school that you've partnered with, or it's that person who's coming back and getting reskilled. You've really created experiences that will engage the learner in it. I personally want to learn from you in that respective place. While we say we want to enable experiences, I recognize it's from all of you that we actually get that experience to be a positive one for our students. Now, from a VMware perspective, and I apologize, it was a build. There's a couple key areas that we're focused on when it comes to the technology. So I said VMware used to be just this virtualization thing that people understand quite well at this particular time. But now we're evolving to what we call the 5 franchises or 5 key focus areas for us. The first one is app modernization, where we use our platform TMZoo. And the intention really is, how do you create a world where people want to build, design, maintain, and operate their cloud native applications kind of in a single platform. So we're starting to build out that curriculum in that space. Multi-cloud, so we're looking at how do we use the VMware cloud to actually bring experiences to students. Digital workspace, I think it's actually digital work anyplace is the new focus of that. I would imagine many of you have been working from home. Many of you have been teaching from home. Digital workspace enables that activity to occur. So we recognize that the world has changed fairly significantly. VMware has the technology solutions to enable that. And we're starting to think differently about kind of how we engage students in that space. Intrinsic security, it's probably no surprise why we're focusing in that particular space. You can open the news, you can click on your phone, not right now because you're in awe of what's being said. But if you were to click on your phone, you could probably find very readily some security issues that have been going on very readily at your fingertips. So we want to look at kind of security and how do we as a company, our intrinsic security kind of focus, how do we look in that space? And we had an acquisition called Carbon Black, and that's kind of where that's at. And then we also want to look at NSX, which takes kind of our security as well as our cloud and really looks at how do we bump that up. So what we've started to do, and that we'll be rolling out, and I'm happy to say by the end of this calendar year, we'll actually have kind of all entry-level courses or core skills in all of these areas. So if you haven't paid attention to VMware IT Academy in a while, now's the time to do so because we're releasing new content. So we have introductory skills across all of those. We have a new Getting Started in IT course that's been released, the basics of technology. Our core courses, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail there for you. And then we have kind of our professional skills. And the professional skills, quite honestly, those hands-on experiences that we want to have, we would not have had that possible if it wasn't for the partnership that we have with NDG. So I do want to shout out to NDG and the NetLab team for that particular piece. Those core skills, we're starting to work with NDG a bit more closely to see kind of how do we get those cert-aligned courses that are at that entry level kind of supported there. And then we also have the great support from them from a concept course perspective. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because I think I'm almost out of time, but this gives you a roadmap for what we're looking at. All the skills and courses that you see related to the introductory skills, those are available to you today. They are at a no cost to you and to your students. So anybody who, even if you're not a part of IT Academy, you can access all of those courses on that introductory skill today. The courses that have been sponsored by NDG and have been supported there, those have a badge. The Getting Started in IT is a slightly different experience. It's not badge aligned at this particular time, but it will give students kind of that entry. Those core technical skills, that's actually a new certification that's aligned to those skills. By the end of this fiscal year, we'll have all of those courses available to the IT Academy students. Those are about, think of them as like 10 to 15 hours worth of content that maybe you want to add in addition to some of your other courses that you have that are broader. Maybe it's an extra assignment for your students, but those core technical skills, those actually have a certification that's aligned to it. So we did a lot of job skills analysis to understand where that may be. And for those of you who are more familiar with VMware, you may already be familiar with the VCP, DCV. That's really been the the bread and butter of IT Academy for years. We recognize we need to continue to expand that out because it's not all about data centers now. It really is about kind of all of those different components that we have more broadly. I'm going to zoom past this one, even though it feels like it's not a Zoom because I'm building it out. But the new VCTA certifications, those are available. You can see kind of what that aligns to. Our hope is in the next year to 2 years, we will have for every associate level content, we'll also have that professional level content. And that'll be based upon adoption more broadly. I mentioned the badges and certifications. overall, and kind of what maps to those different badges and certifications overall. And I would ask, you don't have to even participate in IT Academy to do so, but we do have a community page. I'd encourage you to give us a look. If you haven't looked at us in a while, we have changed. We're not the same that we always have been. We as a company are changing from VMware and kind of our focus areas, but we as an academic program are also changing. And with that, I will say thank you very much. I realize I spoke fast, so if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat window and I'll be happy to address them. And I'll be listening the rest of the call. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Jackie, and the VMware IT Academy. And we will be having some training in June on both of those two courses, the data center virtualization and the cloud network courses that have just been released. So if you're interested, teachers can take a whole week to do a pretty deep dive into that content. And that reminds me of really what NETLAB is really about. It's great to have remote access. It's great to have a VMware backbone to help us run all that. But really the most critical thing for us as teachers is to have that content, the labs that we can have our students do. And I'm happy to introduce Kim Yohanan from Palo Alto Networks and their Cybersecurity Academy, and all the content that they provide and build for us to use on our NetLab as well. So thanks, Jackie, and Kim, take it away.
Awesome. All right. Well, yes, good morning there. It's good afternoon for me, but good morning for those of you on the West Coast. Excited to be here. Appreciate Richard inviting me to give an update really about the Academy, but also I'm guessing I saw so many familiar names. So I know I have a lot of folks that are already Academy members on the call. So this is more of an update, but also if you're not super familiar, you'll be able to learn about the Academy and what it offers. And if you want to pursue becoming a member. I also know many of you from my EMC days. So, I've been around these Academy programs for a while, and it's great to have such a fantastic community. So Palo Alto Networks, so we're really committed to preparing students for successful careers in cybersecurity through our Academy program, which provides you with technology and curriculum, and it's for academia. What do you get by being part of this cybersecurity, community that we have? Well, we provide curriculum, entry level through and intermediate courses and labs. And obviously NDG and NetLab Plus is a big part of that. And I'll speak to that. Faculty training. So we have self-paced and online synchronous classes. We issue our virtual firewall license fully bundled for labs. And we also have discount certification exam vouchers for our recently updated entry-level cert, which is now the PCCET and the PCNSA. We have over 1,500 institutions now in 75 countries. There's about 500 in the Americas. Really, the update here is on the left, you see kind of our old, or kind of some of it is obviously still current, but curriculum roadmap. And really the big change here is we had the Palo Alto Network Certified Cybersecurity Associate, and we updated this exam to the Palo Alto Network Certified Cybersecurity Entry-Level Technician. And really what we had here before has evolved. It hasn't gone away. We've just evolved it and combined some things. So we took our foundation course, which was 15 hours with no labs, and it's now 30 hours with labs. And that's sort of the foundation building block here. We took our Gateway and Essentials course and we combined them to create Network Security Fundamentals, and that's 45 hours. And then we added a Cloud Securities course and a Security Operations course, which are each 30 hours. And that aligns to the new cert. So that's really the major change. At the next level up here, we have our firewall course, our commercial course, which many people offer. But we also have an academic version that aligns to the NICE framework, the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. And that prepares you for the PCNSA. And here's our new roadmap. So there's some exciting stuff happening. This gives you kind of the full view, the updated view. The CIC and CPC courses are getting a new name change when they get updated to Pan OS 10. And then we do have some future courses that will be coming out. I'm pretty certain one of the cloud security courses here will be out in May, at the end of May, with no labs. And then the update to that course will provide labs. And then there is one of the SOC courses will be coming in the next kind of quarter for us. So these are futures, but they are on the roadmap. So keep an eye out if that's of interest. This gives you a list of the labs that are covered, and really at that entry level, these labs are all much more technology based. So they're not really, specific to our technology and our firewall. Even though the firewall is part of this lab infrastructure, you're not really going to get the firewall knowledge until the next level of courses for the PCNSA. Those are going to be install, configure, and manage the firewall. This is like all the prerequisite knowledge, the building blocks you need to be successful with the firewall. And of course, NETLAB is, you can see this is their, the diagram for the labs, but this is the next level that you can see all the labs here are very specific to our firewall. So that gives you kind of a feel for kind of what is covered. What's great is that you can go out and create an account on our Moodle platform, and you can check out any of the courses, 1 or 2 modules, and kind of get a feel for what the courses are, if that's something you want to look at. So as you can see, NETLAB is a big theme here. They're very strategic to us. We have NDG online labs. So for the entry level labs, the courses are, these labs are free through June 2022. So you really only need a device to access and the internet access, and you can do the labs and our Moodle shell. So you really don't need anything. You don't have to set anything up. At the next level, those labs wouldn't be free, and it's $50 per learner for 6 months of lab time. That's, if you don't want to set anything up, but what's great about this group is that you do have access to a lot of to NETLAB and the labs. So if you're an academy, then the labs can be pushed to the NETLAB device. And that's what you get here with NETLAB plus VE. So if you have access to NETLAB plus VE, then those labs immediately get pushed. And so that's great. And then we also issue our virtual firewalls for free, which a lot of folks use. If you want to do custom labs, which you can do with NETLAB, then that's great. So super key here, easy to deploy. It's just amazing. It just really makes adopting the curriculum, especially in these times that we're living, very easy, where everybody's had to pivot and be completely online. It's just amazing. So if you are an academy and you want to become an academy, we have an online click to accept agreement. Once I verify that you're an academic institution, we send you a welcome email with how to get started. This group is great because being that the NETLAB plus users group, it's going to be very effortless for you if this is content or curriculum that you want to use. Also, what's unique about our program is we don't require you to teach it verbatim. You can use portions or sections in existing courses or as dedicated courses. You really have a ton of academic freedom on how you want to use the program. We also have I just want to mention there's a lot of resources here around career. If you're not familiar with cyber.org, they have tons of great profiles. NCWIT has some career paths. The Cybersecurity Survival Guide is free to anyone and is basically the book that aligns with the fundamentals courses. There's just some additional resources. That's pretty much it. Like Jackie, and Cyber Aces is back here. I just mentioned this is a free program. It's got 16 lessons. It's really around digital literacy and teaching students at a young age how to be safe online. So if you work with a lot of high schools, this may be something you could use. These are all free activities. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. So I will monitor the chat as well if anybody has questions. And thank you for, and I'll stay on as well. And thank you so much for having me on the session today. I really appreciate it.
Well, great, Kim. Thanks so much for coming on and telling us about Palo Alto Networks. And we do have all of your labs running on our Bay Area NetLab, and it's shared. The only requirement is that any institution that wants to use it has to become a Palo Alto Academy to be able to do that. So our administrator is pretty strict about that. So it's there and available. So you don't have to worry about setting up NetLab yourself. You can connect with us, and we do have agreements with people outside of our region too, if the need is there. None of this would work without NETLAB and NDG, and so I'm thrilled to hand it over the presentation to Rich Weeks and Jason Zeller, who are going to give us an update about NDG today and NETLAB today. So Rich and Jason, it's all yours.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for a lot of things. Thanks for having a vision of how you might share NetLab before that became extremely popular, even though you and I and many people, like Jackie when she was at Cisco, promoted the share. Our goal originally in 1999, 2000, when we built NetLab, was one school could host for many schools. And Richard, you really pulled that off and showed what was possible. So I think a lot of this collaboration is because of outcomes of many people. So I don't know that I can take as much credit as I often receive. I have to give my coworkers who do the hard work most of the credit for our delivery, but then our customers and partners credit for a lot of visions and a lot of things they pulled off like you did, Richard. So I'm really happy that we were in kind of the right place during the pandemic. So during 2020, we served 375,000 people in 2020. And then 2021, we're seeing even more growth. I think in this sector, a lot of word of mouth happens. So we're seeing even growth in Q1, even as we kind of come out of the pandemic, knock on wood. So I'm really happy that we've been able to help a lot of people. And I want to thank a lot of the folks on this call for helping us do that. One of them is my ex-employee that used to work for me. How things changed. Now I work for Mr. Zeller, even though I recruit him back to work for us part-time in the summer between his breaks and to help run workshops he used to do for. So Jason actually was one of the first subject matter experts that helped with our Linux courses. I like to lead in with the Linux courses as a quick update because often we meet new learners that are really intimidated by Linux, and this little teeny module, Linux Unhatched, is probably our most popular one chapter course, and there probably is a business reason why. 90+% of the cloud operating system is based on Linux. Think about that as cloud grows, 90+%. So Linux is continuing to be a real core skill. This little module is available on Cisco Networking Academy website. And my project manager used to be at Cisco, and she's on this call. Jackie Barker, thank you for all your hard work when you were the project manager at Cisco. It's now helped almost 700,000 plus people, and probably will be 1 million people this time next year. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work with Jackie and Omar Shaban at Cisco to deliver this, and it's still in use 7 years later. Why is it so popular? It's a core skill for IT, operating systems for big data analytics, cloud computing, et cetera, et cetera. So we could really dive into that, but I want to give you some updates. If you're going to teach Cisco CyberOps, which is cyber operations, a lot of CSOC type languages going around, cyber ranges, you name the buzzword, there are like 3 million plus job openings around the world for cyber experts, a lot of opportunity. If you learn a little Linux, you can dive into cyber operations and you may get by. If you know networking, you're going to do even better. So long story short, this course is supported by NDG with the labs, and you can go to netacad.com and create a class template and use our online labs, or you can put this in your NetLab system. We've updated to the latest lab library. So hopefully that's good news. All our Linux courses have been updated. Linux Essentials 1 and 2 have been updated to the latest certifications from our partner, LPI, Linux Professional Institute. And Jason, you might want to unmute because I'm going to call on you and put you on the spot because my ex-coworker, who is now a professor, runs a CAE program, Center of Academic Excellence for National Security Agency. A lot of you probably are CAEs, and we are learning that a lot of people are asking questions how they might use this and these outcomes to help their students to maybe get CAE funding, including scholarship type funding, to show they're going to do the outcomes they promised to the government as they take advantage of those programs. So LPI has certifications. If you go to netacad.com, we've already arranged with Cisco to build into the course templates you can set up for those certification discounts to be available for Linux Essentials, which is more of a certificate, Linux 1 and Linux 2 for their actual LPI LPIC 1 certification, which is 100% open source. And as we all know, there's many, many disparate distributions of Linux. All right. Jackie's program, VMware IT Academy, or I should say the VMware's program that Jackie manages, is a key component for NDG. Now, I'd like to lead into this for the update. We have updated the latest vSphere labs. So right now, ICM is at the 7.0 version for vSphere, install, configure, manage. Now, why in the world would I mention that in the context of NetLab? If you're going to run a NetLab system and or if you want to build your own type lab system, I wouldn't, but if you want to, you could use their hypervisor and do it. Take the install, configure, manage course. Then you could write the application layer work that we've done, automation, all the software, and you can build your own lab. Or you can just set up a hypervisor environment. Guess what? If you join their program, they give your students access to their workstation virtualization products. You can also have a student use the ICM product in the NetLab product or in your own lab. So we love it when an instructor learns vSphere, because then they can go off and work on all kinds of custom things. And then when they use our NetLab product and our pod designer, they can build things that we can then share with other schools. So we highly recommend this program. A lot of value in the program. Now, we recognize a lot of students would be pretty intimidated by the vSphere product line, especially if they're early on in their learning or early on in their career. So we worked with VMware to come up with some concept courses that highlight how to do things. Jackie mentioned this cloud and virtualization concept course. We know we need to update this. The marketplace is moving with great velocity. It looks like a hockey stick if you look at technology change. We all have seen those, how much technology is changing, it's going straight up. Containers is a big deal in the marketplace. In 2015, when we decided to teach people Linux, we chose Docker and containers because we could do it at lower cost. We could consume out of AWS or Google or put a few servers around, use Docker containers, and then similar to Kubernetes, pass that compute anywhere we needed, where we can get it cheap. Therefore, we could scale to thousands of students at very low cost. So containers and Kubernetes is a great way to build modern applications. So you're going to see more businesses invest in it. So we're going to add this as an overview for beginning students, how to do this. Tanzu is VMware's modern application product. We're going to add a quick overview, Carbon Black Cyber, and then NSX is obviously software-defined networks, which is a huge deal in the marketplace. So all these tools will be added into Cloud and Vert as an overview. Now, Jason, I'll put you on the spot. Let's do this interactive. Are you using this? And then also, do you teach vSphere ICM? And do you see value in this for beginners, mid-level learners, advanced learners? What's the value to them?
Yeah, absolutely. The VMware side of it, one, all the cybersecurity students that go through my program, they are at least promoted to take the virtualization side of it. While it's not a core requirement, it's like the top of the list of the free electives. And most of that is because there's nothing they can't do in cybersecurity that won't touch some type of virtualization. Now, all my students get hands-on with VMware products at some point within their career. And that's part of the great part of being part of the VMware IT Academy. All of them can have VMware workstation. They can use the ICM products, et cetera, in order to pull off their coursework and their lab work on top of what they have available within the NetLab system. In the cloud and virtualization side, we do teach that. When I originally wrote that course, it was taught to use cloud and virtualization, a combination of Linux Unhatched, and then we finished it up with the AWS curriculum. That was right when AWS was being launched. And that turned out to be a great course. And since then, we have other instructors that have taken that course and really ran with it. And they'll be excited to see these updates that you're releasing.
So for your beginning students, you introduce them to cloud and virtualization concepts as part of how you wrote the course outline. And then they do a little Linux Unhatched so that when they're in the cloud and they actually have to pick an operating system to run, they can play with Linux. So now they can move virtualization, they can play with Linux. So then they can go from there to add whatever discipline they plan to in other classes. Is that kind of your thought pattern?
Absolutely.
And then I assume you use AWS to teach them how to consume like Elastic Compute and others through the dashboard on AWS.
Yeah, it begins them with the entry level of the AWS certifications, and then there's another course that will go more into the infrastructure side, which is some of the great workshops they have some of this summer at the summer conference. They'll go through those same courses.
If you have a class you think might benefit from that model, please chat with Jason. Feel free to chat with him, and I'm sure he'll be glad to help you. All right, additional resources that are coming. Jackie mentioned there's a lot of new offerings coming with the VMware IT Academy. One of the things you're going to see for your NetLab system is we're working with VMware to come out with some VCTA labs. So you'll take some of the subsets you might learn if you took the heavier, more advanced ICM course. You'll get some subset information that's aimed at more of a beginner or mid-level learner. We're also looking at adding assessment to Cloud Invert. We know the assessments really matter. The challenge obviously there for assessments is how to point people back to where grades end up. And that's one of the big challenges we often face when we try to figure out how we're going to help with assessments. That's kind of a little more complex if you don't centralize the database, and that's one of the headaches. We're also going to have a whole list of lab libraries aimed at that data center virtualization track, but more for beginners, like the students that might have taken Jason's class that he wrote the courseware that he's using AWS, Cloud Invert, Linux. These would be more popular with them probably. These students would be for entry-level VCTA certification. Now, obviously, you know that NetLab is using compute resources. We've got a scheduling engine in front of it. That's where VMware is really important. We're actually running on top of VMware vSphere, and we're doing API calls. That's why we really recommend the ICM class for instructors. And Richard's nodding his head. Many instructors took his past ICM programs are now probably working for him, like I believe David did. Now he's a system admin, and he's teaching other students how to build custom things. And that's how he's probably run a lot of cyber camps. And Richard, I'll put you on the spot. It's probably helped a lot get NSF or NSA or other grants, right, for cyber camps?
We're hopeful. We have our fingers crossed.
Okay, well, there you go. So long story short, that's how they're building those custom items, is really knowing VMware. And that's why VMware's program is so important in our mind. So once you've got vSphere, you can download it from VMware's academic software license program. You're off to the races time scheduling. That's where you hear NetLab a lot. And the reason it's popular is if you just have a very small NetLab setup, maybe 2 small servers, you can see how many students you might serve. It can really scale. So that's why you see a lot of schools like this model. They like VMware's program and NDG and what we partnered together to help accomplish. Now, obviously, many of your Cisco Network Academy's great program, best pedagogy and curriculum on the marketplace for beginners to go from no knowledge to network certified and job enabled. We continue to support real gear. This is why we originally built NetLab, and then we expanded it with VMware to virtualization. These courses are still supported. There's some changes in the hardware, so you've got to run a new pod called MVP, but we still support the old pods. We know it's hard to get budget for equipment, so we're doing our best to support it. Another thing that's new for NetLab is we're now supporting Packet Tracer. I think I told you guys we were working on it. It's now available. The reason this is a big deal is you might have a student who's having to borrow a Google Chromebook or a diskless workstation because maybe economics or family can't afford a computer or a laptop. And especially now, if they want to keep up in their networking class, they need some way to use Packet Tracer. If they can't get it to run local, we've set it up so it's running on NetLab as a service. So you can set this up and running, and you'll have a nice little workbench. They can connect to Cisco Networking NetAcad right from our website, and they can continue their program even if they don't have a desktop computer or a laptop with a hard drive. We're really proud of this, and I think it's helping a lot of students. Cisco has been really great to work with, so we can help a lot of people. You know, there's all the documentation you need on our website. Go to our website, and it'll tell you how to do that. Hopefully that'll help you if you've got a NetLab. Richard, I don't know if you've set this up yet, but I believe this is value to the marketplace, and we're getting great feedback on it. Richard, is it available yet in your NetLab as a resource?
You know, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say I don't know, and I know that this has been in demand. I mean, I don't know if David is on the call today. I don't think so, but certainly we could certainly spin it up. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I mentioned that hardware again. We're not trying to replace that need for hardware. Cisco still values students given access to hardware. In our minds, the best model is learn on Packet Tracer because it scales as software. And then when you need it, schedule a time to a NetLab system and access equipment. All right, now Red Hat, I mentioned earlier Linux. The Linux courses we have are really designed to get a student very comfortable with command line. Why? It's a huge deal in the marketplace. If they can learn command line, get comfortable with things like bash scripts, they can easily move into the world of automation. And if they go into the world of machine learning and AI, they can be extremely competitive because they already know how to manage their own Linux and open source environment. Red Hat's probably best of breed for enterprise. So if you're looking to go down the path of teaching your students enterprise level sysadmin, this is a great program, so we support it. They have their own LMS model now. They have their like an LMS that you can log in as a Red Hat Academy. We're supporting that through LTI, so you can get online labs, or you can use your own NetLab Plus system. And we are working with them on their latest version, 8.2 in many cases for many of their courses. All right, then we've got lots of cybersecurity pods, and this is where I really wanted Jason on. Jason, your school is a CAE, and we'll kind of go over that later. Jason is also going to be running some WASTC workshops, and we'll go over that. If you want to chat with Jason about being a CIE, please do send him some chat messages. So long story short, we have many programs we are supporting that are in the cybersecurity thread, but one of the best is Kim's program, Palo Alto Network Cybersecurity Academy. The reason I really like this program is they've given you a lot of entry-level content that's aimed at a beginner. They'll pedagogy, lift them from where they are today up to more advanced topics. But you could take 3 courses in their current thread and then go to the 210 level, and you get certified with the Palo Alto Network Firewall and get a great job. Now they've added more content, so now you can take 4 courses and then graduate the learner to the 210 level. But what I like about this is you can take a beginner, they take some basic IT classes. While they're doing that, take some basic cyber knowledge for Palo Alto and become employable. I'm one of those folks that had to pay for their own tuition. So let me tell you, getting a job my sophomore year at university while I was still in school saved my bacon. I got to imagine you run into students that need money to pay next semester's tuition. That's where I was. I had to pay the rent, buy my groceries, and pay next semester's tuition or drop out. I love these kind of programs because take 3 courses, get a cert, get employed, pay your tuition. What a great model. So I really recommend you check these out if you haven't, and consider Palo Alto Network Cybersecurity Academy. All right, ethical hacking. A lot of people ask me, hey, Rich, you invested in ethical hacking. Can I do the CEH? The answer is no. We are not a CEH partner. CEH has a great program, awesome program. We built these because some schools can't afford, or their students can't afford, the CEH track. We are trying to complement their offering. Now, Certified Ethical Hacking is a nonprofit that has a certification. Certified Ethical Hacking has also become a generic term. So we built a set of lab libraries that were designed to help introduce basic things like pen testing in a generic model, and then help your students. And we did our best to align them to many cert objectives. Now, the reason I highlight that is we're not trying to compete with CompTIA or CEH. Our goal is not compete with anyone. Our goal is to lift up a beginner, give them some basics, and hope they can get that first job to get some income. That's our goal. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Now, Jason, you worked really hard on these EH labs. You did version 1 with Thomas Koslov on our team, and you were the primary SME. On version 2, we had you and some other SMEs and some university professors along with you. What are you doing with these labs? Are you using it in your classroom, or do you have others that you're using? How are you teaching these topics?
Yeah, for this lab set in particular, it's in my penetration testing course for my grad students. In particular, we're using all these lab sets, and then I took these labs one step further and built a capture the flag event that it's kind of their skills-based assessment, so to speak, to test their skills at the end of the semester and see if they gained knowledge throughout the year. We had kind of done that with version 1, and I'd done that with some grad students, and I think some of you may have seen that in some of the workshops I've done in the past. We have continued that with version 2, and I'd like to share some of those materials, which I believe we're going to try to do this summer.
Is that at the WASTC workshop you're going to share those?
Absolutely. It's the only place to be.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. All right. Now, a forensics lab library. We were hearing from some of our customers they need to teach forensics, but there wasn't a lot of product out there for beginners. So we built a simple forensics lab library based on a Linux VM and then a captured disk of a Microsoft machine operating system, a captured disk. What we found was it didn't go deep enough. So this second version, we went very deep. What we did was hire subject matter experts that were working as professionals in forensics. Now, Jason taught this class, so I'll defer to him, and I could do a demo if we had time. But the labs are very, very long, because what we did this time is, instead of saying, hey, find your own book, we made the assumption maybe there's not a book out there that does what we want to accomplish. So the labs themselves are designed to be standalone. So you could teach this concept to beginners and they could understand what computer forensics was as a professional. I really love this lab library. Now, Jason, the second lab library, did you feel like we got it right based on feedback? And then have you had any experience or any feedback from those, maybe somebody that's doing an internship or industry?
Yeah, by far. So last year when I taught the Forensics 1 lab set, I was using a combination of another book publisher and their labs and curriculum and content, because I was in a pinch and I needed to use some content and some labs from somebody else. About halfway through, I gave them access to the old lab library, and the students really liked the NDG lab library, not causing any bias, but they felt it was more intuitive to use on that platform than the other vendor that we were using. And so when we took that information to Rich, like he said, he used an industry expert to kind of come up with some new labs. And so I taught this course this spring, and students are loving it. They're loving going through the labs. And one of my students is actually a forensic investigator for the city of Atlanta in Georgia. And he said that these labs are basically spot on. He was amazed at how close they were to his actual job and what he's doing for the police department down there. Particularly with the open source tools. Obviously, having the paid for tools would be hard to have in an academic setting, but for the open source tools introduced in here, he said they were pretty much spot on. He was happy to go through it.
So what I'd like to highlight is this wouldn't be possible if we didn't work with the community, like the California Community College was using Forensics version 1, and then schools like the schools in you're working with, and Jason weren't giving us the feedback. And then VMware was partnering with us, letting us run this on top of vSphere. So it's really taking a village, if you will, or lots of different partners to pull these things off. All right, we are working on a grant with the University of South Carolina and Stanley Community College. We're trying to build an academic cloud. We want to see if we can get academia to host services for academia. That's a stretch, believe it or not, because you go Fed, then you go 50 states. Within the states, they want to be about their local municipality and county. It's hard to get people to collaborate. What we're trying to do is two-prong. Prong one, build an academic cloud, and I'll go over that real quick. Prong two, we're trying to see if the professors will write content. Now, the research professors, they have a lot of advanced stuff. So we found a university professor that used to work at a 2-year +4. Many of you may know him, Dr. Grushenko, and he's been writing a lot of labs that are coming aligned with his PhD's high-speed network research, software-defined network, programmable switches, and then he's preparing those labs and then posting them back. And Jason, I believe you're using many of these labs in your program, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So that network tools and protocols that you see over there on the left is a fantastic course to intermix with some of your Cisco content, particularly at the CCNA level. One of the big things out of that lab set is being able to really show what jitter and latency do. We talk about it in datacom theory and the things like that in the Cisco courses, but you don't really see how it affects in a high-speed network. And so that lab library will actually show students how just a little bit of jitter or latency will really thrash a 1 gig, 10 gig, even 40 gig network as you get to use those real time within the mini net that's implemented there. And then the Zeek intrusion detection labs, I use those in my network defense course that the students just went through this spring. And they were excited to be able to use industry things that are going out there, learn a little bit of machine learning. And then I expanded that course a little bit further with some Splunk and a couple other activities.
All right, so I mentioned forensics, but I want to highlight all these cyber items that we're getting ready to share more about are going to be in a workshop at the WASTC workshop, and Jason will be the instructor. He's run a lot of how to build your own labs, and he'll probably be willing to help you with that if you attend his session, or if you're in another session, you catch him during breaks, etc. online. I'm sure he'll be glad to spend time with you. And if needed, I might even fund a custom lab workshop we just do online. We'll just see if people want us to do it. All right, so the academic cloud I mentioned, the concept is we could take all these NetLab systems around the world and we could turn them into a grid and make them an academic cloud. And we already have the technology. We've been working on this for years. We can do it. What we can't do is figure out how to sustain with funding. Nobody wants to fund unless it goes to a specific school. They take the overhead. I know it's recorded. That's just the truth. It's very political to figure out how to navigate all these different governments agencies, but we can make all these become a grid now with technology. I don't know how to sustain it in that model, but we've got it working. We've already served, we said, I think we'd served like a few thousand students. We're serving government agencies, and like the US Army with Learning has used it in the grant, under the grant with USC in their classes. And we've served 10 to 50,000 learners. Now, why am I so broad? Because that cloud can also consume off of our own servers. It doesn't have to just be at a school. We can also consume in Europe or Asia. So it's a pretty cool concept. And how it works, you can use your own LMS. We have an online portal to be the glue. You grab that NETLAB compute resource, and then you get your access, and then the grade and outcome can come back. But we got to have a place to put that. And with all the data laws, it's extremely complex. And you'll be amazed at how hard it is to navigate. All 50 states now are starting to have their own data laws. It's really hard to figure out how to create glue among all this. All right, with all that shared, I mentioned Jason's a CAE. I don't have a lot of time, but hopefully this has helped you. This are the courses that he's using. They're based off of the offerings we kind of covered, and he'll go over it in his WASTC workshop. You feel free to send him chats or ask questions, but these are kind of like a list of things that he is teaching as a professor, like this semester. All these things are being taught by Jason. So I wanted you to have the opportunity to talk to him. And he's integrating his NETLAB with his LMS. NETLAB had an API programmable interface added, so you could add your own software and automation to your NETLAB. Now you can integrate it with your own learning management system using LTI, just like we do in behind the scene with NDG Online. So that's all been offered to the public now and works on your NETLAB system. And Jason, you've got this up and running. I believe you use Blackboard, and you just want to share with people how it's going. And for time, we'll let them ask us questions.
Yeah, by far. So this has probably been the coolest feature that's came out since we got rid of Java. It's a really cool tool that allows us to integrate directly within the LMSs. For the longtime people that have been asking me for LDAP integration for 9 years, this is the best thing that's came out, where you can have some single sign-on. It launches directly from the LMS. So we don't have to worry about usernames and passwords and setting instructors and students up in the classes on NETLAB. It just, you click a link, it launches right out of the LMS and starts the lab for them. So really, really handy. It also will send back a very, I'll call it a archaic type scoring system. We will at least do a basic score of whether they attended the lab and participated in the lab, and that score gets kicked back to the LMS. And that's some of the things I'm going to be demonstrating here during the workshop this summer, is how well it's worked. I've been using it for just over a year now, and like Rich said, it has gone public in the NETLAB versions, and I strongly recommend it. It takes a lot of headache and work off my shoulders as a NETLAB administrator, but also me as an instructor.
Sorry we ran over, but hopefully the few minutes over was worth, and you got some value out of all this. I'd love to get feedback from you all. I'll be honest, I don't have enough labor. I mean, I need labor to work on assessments. I need labor to work on, but I keep hearing we charge too much. In other words, if a school has to pay us $1,800 for an annual support fee, that's too much. Can I get it down to $500? And quite honest, I need more developers. I need more content people to do all the things the market is screaming. Please do this for me. But hey, for 20 years, we've hung in there thanks to great partners, VMware, Palo Alto Networks, Cisco, and obviously the schools that partner with us to help us pull these things off. I'd love to get feedback or knowledge from you all. Sorry I ran over, but thank you all.
No worries. Thank you, Rich, so much. And yeah, one of the things is, we can share our NETLAB. We've been doing that successfully and sharing the cost also. And it's not painful at all when 24 colleges share that cost. And it's just a matter of convincing them the need for this service. And sometimes if they don't see the hardware sitting on their desk, they don't know what you're paying for. So we have to always make that argument and make sure that they keep NETLAB in their minds and keep it funded. So just a couple of announcements. On the summer faculty development weeks, we do plan on doing that this summer. We'll have presentations from Jason and also from VMware and Palo Alto Networks. So go ahead and click the next slide. Registration actually opened yesterday. We already have 120 registrations after one day. So get in there and make sure you register on the site. Next slide. These are the 3 workshops that both NDG, VMware, and Palo Alto have planned for that workshop, among the other, 15 more that we're doing as well. So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you, and hopefully you will attend, and hope I'll see all of you this summer in June.
Well, thank you, Richard, very much for pulling together this panel, and thank you, Jackie and Jason and Rich and Kim for your contributions. I think it's amazing, Richard, what you've been able to pull together with this NetLab tool as kind of a catalyst for all these different industry partners to come together and still be engaged with our community college system. I particularly like some of the comments that Jackie made about the way you've innovated using the NetLab tool to reach out to the cyber competitions and some of these others. This is a true partnership, and it's wonderful. And I really want to thank Rich for his years of endurance in making this happen. It's a passion project for him, I know. And Rich, it works. Thank you very much. And that will pretty much wrap it up for now. I've seen a lot of email addresses in the chat line. Make sure you grab those before you go. People want to talk to you and help you and things like that. This entire session is recorded, will be edited, transcribed, and the slides will appear on our website in less than a week. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful week and weekend. Yes. Bye-bye.